All right, Vivi. Well, can we do a mic check real quickly just before our crowd and our audience comes in to the museum? And then also, Vivi, if we can get up any slides that we will be using today that we used yesterday, just so I have a knowledge of what materials up there to use today. So if you can just kind of play it back real quickly, just so I can see it. Good morning. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing all right? Need everything? Got everything you need?
We're good.
Awesome.
We're good.
Cool.
I had a meeting with
Good.
Leo, so it's good. We should be on the same page. Do you know if you have any like big crowds coming in today, or is it just kind of like?
There's one school group with about 60 or so that'll come in at 11.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't know if they're from, I don't know if they're from Hot Shot specifically, but they'll be they're,
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Vivi. I really appreciate that. That was perfect. If we could get my mic. No, that's good. You have it right, Vivi. I'm sorry. I'm kind of overthinking this a little bit. But yeah, I think that's perfect there. I think it's great. I can raise my voice a little. Fantastic. Also, Vivi, I heard we have a group of 60 kids coming in here. So that'll be fun. So down on the left-hand side of the hot shop, we have Courtney Bram. Now he's starting the piece that eventually will move to the center. And with this blob of glass that we're working on, we're going to manipulate into a vessel. We do have a drawing of this vessel down in the center of the hot shop, but we're going to worry about the massive glass that we have now. This is the actual part of glass blowing, when we blow through the blowpipe and expand the bubble that we have. We can use different tools to ensure that the bubble will blow out in certain places we want to by using a wet pad and newspaper. When we blow air through the blowpipe, it will always take the path of least resistance, which means wherever the glass is hotter, it will always blow out towards. Now here at the museum, we have two furnaces where the hot molten glass is being pulled out of, one on the left and one on the right-hand side. Today we are working out of the furnace on your left-hand side, and behind this door essentially lies a crucible, a ceramic pot that we are heating up that is filled with hot molten glass. And we're melting about 1,000 pounds of glass in each furnace, about 2,100 degrees, or about the same temperature as molten lava. Now in both benches we're doing two different projects, but these pieces will be coming together later on in the process. What we're working now on the center is a setup for another piece. Well, to all our wonderful audience, I do want to give you the heads up that the action will be moving onto the center of the hot shop from now. We typically begin the pieces on the ends of the hot shop, and then they will conclude down in the center. We are working with color here today, and we can see some of the colors that we will be using for our featured artist and our visiting artist this week, Leo Berk. So these are the colors that we'll be focusing and working on. Later on, we'll dive into what makes color, how it's made, and where we're purchasing it from. But right now, I do kind of want to go back to the glass because we are going to be adding a decorative wrap. Now, if we look at our piece down here, we can begin to see that decorative wrap very slightly. It's on a darker color. This one, however, on the piece down in the center, we're going to be adding the white wrap. Now, by letting our bubble, our core, fall off center, we can create a different pattern on our glass. So we're going to come right on over. And on the top screen, you're seeing a diagram essentially of that. We're going to bring over a hot mass of glass. And instead of putting it on the lip, how we see on our top screen, we're going to put it all across the body of our form. Now, again, since we let it go off center, technically all the lines will be showing a different pattern, a different design. So this time around, the lines won't be exactly horizontal with our finished vessel, but more off of a side. Now again, for our wonderful audience, my name is David. If you have questions, I am more than happy to answer questions. We are reheating the glass in what we call the glory hole, which is a reheating chamber. It's a little bit hotter than the actual furnace at 2,300 degrees, but it's still extremely hot. If you bring s'mores or marshmallows, we can make that happen down here thanks to those ovens. They're extremely hot. But we're going to come on right on over, and we're going to watch this wrap being added to our core. Isn't that just amazing? Now, since we did this and since we let our bubble go off center, the lines, if we let the bubble center, would be exactly horizontal. Now they'll be a little diagonal onto our vessel. Now, in this case, we're using the glory hole, again, about 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit, to essentially build the heat. Now, it doesn't matter what color we work with. When we add heat, we'll always look red and orange. And that's due to the discoloration is due to the heat itself. As the piece cools down, we'll begin to see more of the white that we added, the white stripe. But we'll also see a little bit more of that core color, which I believe is a green. But again, we won't really see that until this piece has been blown out and cooled sufficiently enough to see the actual hue. Notice that glassmaking is all about teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work down here. Now, the person in charge of this piece is our gaffer, which is Gabe, who's sitting in the center of the hot shop. But today is a very special day because we do have a visiting artist, a featured artist all this week, which will be Leo Berk. Now, Leo's based in Seattle, but currently he's going to be spending the next few days here at the museum. Now, I do want to talk about the piece that we have here on this pedestal. That is made from coal, which is quite amazing. But again, we will be focusing on a different project. Essentially, The reason we are here today with Leo Berk as our visiting artist is we're going to be creating a bunch of different vessels that will later be displayed in a home. And what we're trying to do here is show the presence of art form, but not in a gallery or museum setting, rather in a home setting. So we want the art to be the experience a person has in this home that will be filled with all this lovely glass that we will fill it with. Oh wow, and look at all this shaping that we're doing. Again, we're using a wet pad and newspaper to control essentially where the bubble is blowing towards. Now, on the opposite end, we have Sarah, and she's blowing through that blowpipe that is expanding the bubble itself. If you're wondering how much air she's blowing, however, she's blowing about the same air pressure you use to blow out a candle. So it's not a lot of air, but it does vary. As you watch the demonstration at one point or another, I do recommend the top balcony. It's a fantastic place to view the glass making, but also hear the communication going on in between the team. There you can really hear the team saying like blow softly or blow gentle or even blow hard. We created a constriction towards the pipe, and this is where the break-off section will be located. So although we still have quite some shaping to do, we have already created a place where this vessel will be broken free. Welcome to the Museum of Glass. Thank you for joining us. Again, my name is David. If you have questions, I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have about the process here today. Again, our featured artist here today is Leo Berk, which will be taking over the museum until Sunday. Well, we've been blowing this bubble out, and we can now begin to see that true color of green. Remember, it's still a little bit more on that reddish orange glow, and that's one good way we can see where the heat is at. We can notice that towards the bottom section to absorb the most heat, and that is the area we will continue to manipulate. So how did we get the lines in the glass? Well, earlier we saw this process, and what we did is we brought over solid white color and brought it right on over here, and we turned the glass, and as it turned, it kind of spanned towards the whole piece itself. We're going to see this process later on also, and I believe later on we will be showing kind of a video clip of how that happened, but right now we're just going to focus on this process. I do want to spend a second and talk about color. In our furnace, we only hold clear glass, and we intend to keep it that way. If we want to work with color, we have to buy it from a manufacturer. So here we see our visiting artist, Leo, came to the museum with a whole variety of different colors at our disposal. If we want to work with color, we would have to first go to that company. And it's like going to a candy store, by the way. They sell every single color you could ever imagine. I mean, it's from the ground to the ceiling, just stacked with color. It's quite just amazing every time you go. But once you decide your colors, because again, they make not just one or two reds, they make hundreds of reds. Once you decide exactly which one you want, you purchase it, and we will need to preheat this. The way that the company makes the color itself is by adding different metals of the periodic table of elements. Different metals will produce a different color to create like a, I don't know, this red that we see here. Red is more of the expensive color, red and pink specifically, because they contain gold. So we add gold to create those colors. To make green, we might add chromium or iron. Blue will be cobalt. Manganese can produce purple and black. And again, it's specifically metals. We even use uranium in glass, which produces a glow-in-the-dark green. Now, the colors first have to be preheated. So if we want to use, I don't know, let's say this white bar right now, we couldn't use it until another 30 minutes or so. It does need to preheat at 900 degrees. And later on, we will see the coloring application, but essentially, we'll get that nice and hot and place it right on top of a beginning bubble and spread that color evenly around that bubble to create a thin layer of color. Now, it may be hard to believe, but the piece that we have here is playing that same trick. Now, with clear glass on the surface, it will magnify the underlying color and make it look solid. Although we now know that it's not solid, it is just a thin layer sandwiched in between clear glass. And on our top screen, we're seeing a diagram of that process, but also what the effect actually looks like. Well, we've essentially created most of our vessel. What we're gonna do now is really clean up the very bottom end. Notice when we come out where the heater will be located also, really just on that very bottom portion. We're gonna go ahead, clean it up, and then the next step is to transfer it onto a different rod. So a glassmaker after this move will begin to create what we call the punty, which is the transfer rod. In a little bit, we'll dive in deep into what exactly is a punty and how we bring it over. And here we go with the distorted effects now. We have an example of the piece we made yesterday. And we've been making these beautiful vessels and then going back to distort the lines that we see here. All part of the plan, all part of the collection. We can also see the previous pieces we made yesterday sitting on your right-hand side in the annealer. All this glass you see here will eventually be brought out and brought into our table so we can begin to see it. However, it's still a little bit hot, so we're going to let them cool down naturally. But here shortly, we'll go ahead and bring them out one by one. Now, down on the left-hand side, Sarah has gathered glass on a new rod, and she's going to be making what we call the punty, which is the transfer rod. It's going to be the new handle we use so we can begin to work on the top half of our vessel. What makes a punty so difficult is that we have a small window to work from. Not too hot, not too cold. If we bring it over too hot, it's going to fuse with that bottom of the vessel. Remember, it's only temporary, which means it will need a break later on. And if we bring it over too cold, it doesn't fuse properly. And when we're pulling and tugging on the glass, the piece can end up on the ground. It's about bringing it over, and it just takes knowledge and working with glass for a long time. Yes, in both our furnaces, we only have clear glass. The glory hole, there is no glass. The main and the key difference between the furnace and the glory hole is the glory hole is just used to reheat. On our top screen, we're seeing a diagram of our furnace. I'll come over here and kind of quickly break it down so we understand where the clear glass is being pulled out of. So it's about 2100 degrees, about the same temperature as molten lava. When we open this door, we see a lot of red and orange, but there's so much more going on in that diagram. We can see that behind this door lies a crucible, a ceramic pot that we are heating with natural gas. Why do we only use clear glass in our furnace? This just gives us the ability to use a full range of the color spectrum rather than one or two few colors. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to make that into a color pot. Well, we could add a little bit of cobalt, the actual metal, and that means our whole tank will become clear, or blue, I meant. And everything we produce will be that same blue, which might be cool for a while, but after a while, well, we're making blue stuff all day, every day. So instead of doing that, by melting clear glass, we're giving ourselves the ability to just use the full range of the color spectrum. Now this vessel will go through a thinning procedure, and we see the glass makers pull thick glass out. Since we created a constriction, we also thicken the glass in that area. Now to make sure that we have an even thickness, we will pull that thick glass. Here in a little bit, we're just gonna cut that right off the glass. Now, any glass that ends up on this ground, unfortunately, we cannot recycle. Due to its color content, if we try to place them back into our furnace, they can melt and contaminate our 1,000 pounds of glass. Now, we do have a visiting artist here today, and that is Leo Berk down here. Now, notice Leo is closely standing by. He's recommending how this vessel should exactly look like. And we have our professional crew down here that are trying to give him essentially what he is asking for. So there's a lot of communication going on between the team and our visiting artist here today. Now, Leo is going to be here until Sunday, creating all these wonderful vessels. We are warming up. His residency did begin yesterday, and today is our second day. We are going to be moving on to larger stuff later on, but right now we do want to really focus on this collection of glass. And look at that. They make it look so easy, but what we just did was remove all the thick glass right off of our piece. I mean, we cut it straight off. Notice we're using this torch to heat up the very back area. The reason we're heating that area because that is the area that absorbs the least amount of heat. When we're entering the glory hole, the tip of the glass is always the first thing to enter and the last thing to leave. So that back area is never really going to absorb as much heat. To counteract that, we will use that torch in that general area to ensure that a crack won't appear, because if this piece is going to crack, it's going to crack from that cold area where that punty is located at. Now, again, for our audience, my name is David. If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand or shout my name, and I am more than happy to share my glass-making experience also. But please definitely sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Again, our visiting artists will be back until Sunday. The top balcony is always a great place to view the live glass-making demonstration. But as we continue to manipulate this mass, I do want to talk a little bit about the glass that we're melting here at the museum. Now, we purchased this glass. It's manufactured about 45 minutes north of Seattle, called Spectrum Glass Nugget. We're seeing down on your right-hand side of the hot shop, our furnace down here is running a little low on glass. When we have anywhere from 400 to 600 pounds of glass left, it is then time to recharge it. Fill it back up with more glass. So we melt these specifically made glass pellets. Now, these glass pellets are maximized for glass makers, which means they're specifically made for offhand glass making. All this means that it has a longer working time. Now, again, I said this glass is specifically formulated for us. And here I can show you exactly what it looks like. It looks like a little ice cube pellet. We do know what the company uses to make this glass. We do know it's a soda lime glass mixture. So they add silica sand, soda ash, and lime. That's what makes our glass. However, we don't know the exact recipe. And that is their top secret there, is exactly how much of everything they're adding and if they're adding anything else. That is a top secret. Only the people who work there know exactly what's going on with the glass they produce. To ensure even melting in our furnace, we will use a rake to push that mass of glass and ensure that everything's going to melt evenly and gradually. Now, we will continue to fill that furnace with 50 pounds, 25 in each barrel, throughout the whole day. So once we've reached about that 1,000 pounds, we will stop, but that will be going on throughout the whole day. The next step that we will take on our vessel is to slowly cool it down. Unfortunately, if we leave it out here, it'll get too cold too fast, and it can break, crack, and even explode. Now, to prevent it from breaking, we will slowly cool it down over the period of the next 24 hours. In the annealer on your left-hand side, this oven is currently sitting at 920 degrees, and it'll be the home of our vessel and everything we create here today. Now, with a little bit of water on the end of the transfer rod, the punty, and look at that success. This piece is broken free, and it will now make its way to the annealing oven where it will cool down for the next 24 hours. And fantastic. Can we give a round of applause to our visiting artist here, Leo Berk? Again, he's in charge of this whole process. So we always get asked, how do we keep our doors open here at the Museum of Glass? Well, in all honesty, it's by our wonderful audience that always comes and sees us. I see that you're members here, so welcome back to the museum. Thank you so much for being part of our family. And this is how you can help out the museum, is by becoming a member. This grants you unlimited access to the museum. And we do have this summer a really special lineup for all our visitors. We have a lot of top-tier visiting artists here throughout this whole summer. So we have you covered this summer here at the museum. However, we are going to be moving on to a different project for our audience that's going to stick with us. We're going to move on to some of the big stuff here. We are going to be making a large cylinder here, which is the next process. So this is going to be a large cylinder. It's going to be a large piece, which means it does take some time to set up and start up. Essentially, what you're seeing down here in this annealer is similar to what we're going to create. A large cylinder we're going to make into a tile later on, a sheet of glass, which means this cylinder, we'll need to cut the bottom of it, cut the side of it, and then we can continue to work with it. All right, team. Hello, welcome everyone. So for up here, can we scoot all the way down? Let's fill up the first row here also, all right? So make sure everyone gets a nice seat. For those of you who can't sit in the front, it's totally fine. This is where the party is at, though, the front row, all right? This is where we're going to have the most fun. Sweet. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing today? Is there any birds? Oh, no, we don't have birds here. Oh, no. In glass sculptures, we do have some through our gallery. Real quickly, I'm going to do something special for you guys. I want you guys to feel the heat that the glass makers are exposed to. Are you guys ready for this, right? Did anyone bring any marshmallows, first of all? Any marshmallows? Because if you guys do, we can make s'mores. I'm telling you, this is pretty awesome down here. So we have a glory hole. This is what we're going to be using to reheat the glass. It's about 2,300 degrees. Are you guys ready to feel this? After this, we can get started with our demonstration, but since we have some time right now, I think it's a good time to kind of expose you guys to this heat here. You guys can feel that, right? Can you guys feel that? All right, team. Well, I see that you guys on that side want to feel this heat too, so give me a second here. I'm going to pull this door back. I can open the other side of the door so we can feel that a little bit more. All right. Can you guys feel that now, right? Right? Oh, my God. Yeah, it gets quite hot in here because of this. And this is what makes the hot shop the hot shop. I mean, oh, man, when we're making big pieces and we need to open all these doors, this hot shop can get really hot very quickly. All right, team. Well, I just wanted to show everyone that real quickly, but now we can begin our demonstration. My name is David. I'm going to be your MC here today, all right? If you guys have questions at any given time, you guys can raise your hand or shout my name. I love questions. It's my favorite part about my job. So I'm expecting a lot of questions from my school group, all right? Do you have a question already? Yes. What makes this temperature so hot? So here in the hot shop, we use natural gas. That is our fuel source. Now, did you notice that there's a weird sound in here, right, when you came in? There's like a weird buzzing sound or whirling sound. Sounds like you're next to like a beehive or something. So that sound is natural gas, our blower that we're using. Since our fuel source is such a low melting or low burning fuel, we need a lot of oxygen, a lot of oxygen. So that sound that you're hearing is the blower that's rushing in all that necessary oxygen to get the appropriate heat. If you guys go to any hot shop powered by natural gas, you're going to find a very similar white noise. So the team has laid out these cooling racks that we have here. They sort of look like ladders, right, team? They look like ladders. We're going to be stretching glass out from one end of the room to the opposite, and we're going to let them cool down on these wooden ladders just so it doesn't stick to the ground or cause any markings that might be left over. Now, again, I do expect a lot of questions from my school group, all right? Sounds like a good plan. That's a nice, cute little walrus. See, you guys went to the aquarium? Oh, man, you guys are all, so you guys are all having a good summer? You guys have any more summer plans? You guys went to the aquarium. You guys are at the Museum of Glass. Tomorrow's the zoo? Oh, man, I wish Ike was with you. Damn. You guys have a field trip every day? Right on. Right on. Well, later on. This is going to be a good field trip, by the way. I hope you guys really enjoy it down here. But it sounds like you guys are having an awesome, awesome summer, which is just fantastic. I'm really glad about it, too. Now, here at the museum, we have 2 furnaces where the glass is kept. I showed you a little bit about the glory hole, but there's no glass inside of this chamber. On the top screen, you're seeing a diagram. Essentially, it's a round barrel lined with fire brick made to insulate and keep the heat inside. But that's not where the glass is actually being pulled out of. Here at the museum, we have 2 furnaces, one on the left, one on the right. We're seeing Courtney Bram right here, a professional glassmaker, enter that furnace. Behind that door lies a ceramic pot. Essentially, a hot crucible of glass is being heated up. And on the top screen, we're seeing a diagram of what that furnace looks like inside. Again, just a hot pot of glass at its molten state, which is about 2,100 degrees, or about the same temperature as molten lava. So I had said that we're going to be pulling these long strands of glass from one end of the room to the opposite. Are you guys ready to see this? This is always awesome. We're looking for the diameter of a number 2 pencil, and we want this whole bit of glass that we pull out to be, or to have that similar diameter all the way around. Now, we are working with color here today. And since we're going to be working with color, I do want to hand out a little bit of color. So I'm going to start down here. Please pass it around, and please don't hold it too long so everyone can see exactly what the color looks like, where it's coming from. So for my school group, do you guys have some favorite colors? I'm guessing you guys have favorite colors. You guys want to shout them out? Yes. Blue. All right. Well, to create blue glass, we can add cobalt. Cobalt can create a beautiful blue glass. Do you have a favorite color too? Green. Ooh, to make a green glass, we can use iron or chromium. Iron or chromium will create a green glass. Do you have a favorite color too? To create purple, we will add manganese. And then by adding a lot of manganese, we can create black. Again, to create colors, it's specifically metals from the periodic table of elements. Did you have a different favorite color? Silver. You have to go back and check that exactly what makes silver. Red. Well, if you like red and pink glass, you have expensive taste, first of all. Red and pink glass is made from gold, which makes it some of the more expensive color in the glass industry due to its gold content. So down on that left-hand side, we've been manipulating that massive glass and beginning to gather the necessary amount of glass. You want to make sure you pass it to your peers on the top? Yes. Why is it so heavy? That is solid glass, by the way. And notice here we have all these different colors also, like that orange, that red. A lot of these, notice they look black, right? It looks black, but in reality, it's not black. It's just very dense color. Most of the time, we have to go look at the label And the color is produced in either Germany or Switzerland. So United States don't typically produce color. Rather, it's bought overseas. Do you have a question? How do we get the air pockets in glass? That's a fantastic question. One way we can get air pockets or air bubbles in the glass is either by poking the glass. Due to the consistency of the glass itself, any like small nooks or crannies in the glass, we will trap an air bubble. If we wanted to get an even layer of air bubbles all the way around, we're going to use a mold like this. We call this the bubbler, or one of the molds. And you can place your finger inside of it. It is quite heavy, so I don't want to pass it out. Can you feel that texture inside of there, right? It's pretty weird. This way we can create controlled bubbles all the way around our piece that we make. Right? I always love this mold. It's so unique. It's really difficult to use it too. Now with this mold that I'm kind of showing around, again, it's the ones we use to create bubbles. And what makes this mold so difficult is if we go in too hot, the glass will actually stick inside here and we can't get it out, and it just will release within a week or two. The glass will break on its own. We can't really force it out of here. That's what's making using this one so difficult. Plus, if you get stuck in here, we make fun of you. And no one likes that, right? Hello, welcome to the Museum of Glass. Thank you for joining us. My name is David. Oh, fantastic. Have you ever done glass making before? Are you familiar with it? Sweet. Well, I hope you guys really enjoy here. If you guys have questions, my name is David. I love questions too. So yeah, feel free, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and ask me questions if you like. No problem. While we're watching this demonstration for our audience, the top balcony is always a great place to view the live glass making demonstration. But if you haven't had a chance to look up, I do recommend it. This museum is just gorgeous and beautiful. It is iconic to Tacoma also, and it's also a very functional hot shop. Notice there's a fan up there. Since we've created this natural chimney, hot air can rise, and that fan up there just sucks the heat away from us, allowing us to stay nice and cool all year around. I had said that we're going to be stretching the massive glass, and here we go. We have C. Courtney. The initial pull that you saw him do, that is determining the length or the diameter of these canes. Now, Mass likes to hold heat, so notice that this end is where that red and orange is still located. This is where the length is being pulled from, but everything down here in the center is already cool. We're not manipulating this any longer. Rather, all the length is being pulled out of this hot end since Mass likes to hold heat, and this is all theoretically physics. Isn't that amazing, though, right? It started off as a blob, very similar to taffy making. So what we're seeing now is the true color coming back. It doesn't matter what color we work with. We said we like the blue, we like the green color. It doesn't matter what color we work with. When we get it hot, it will always turn red and orange. And that's one way we can see the heat is by the red and orange that's glowing off the glass. That was a beautiful pull, too, by this team. All these glass makers you see behind me are professionals, by the way, all right? And look at that, just a touch of the tweezers, which are at room temperature. They're so cold, and that glass is so hot that just by a little touch of them can break them free. And we're going to see this process right now of Courtney breaking these strands of glass to smaller, more usable bundles. And again, it's just a touch of the tweezers. He makes it look like butter. All right, team. Well, do we have any questions from our audience here? Any questions that you guys may have? Yes. What is what are we going to be using that for? So when you go through our gallery in our store, if you see any pieces with straight lines, that's what we used it for, all right? So straight lines is used with cane, is made with cane. Yes. Ooh, that's a loaded question there. To make something bigger here in the hot shop, we will just go into the furnace multiple times. So we have two furnaces, that one on the left-hand side. We're gonna make something big, just means you're gonna see the glass makers going back there repeatedly. Notice that the team is communicating right now. This is what glass making is all about. You learn a lot about teamwork and communicating your ideas. We're gonna be moving on to some big stuff now, all right? We started off with warming up with the smaller vessel. We're now going to go ahead and move on to the large stuff. I mean the large stuff also. Am I a glass maker? Yes, I am. I've been working with glass for about 9 years. Uh, I'm just not nearly as good as the team you see behind me. Some of them have been working with glass longer than I've been alive. So they're incredibly, incredibly talented. Later on, I'll kind of introduce you who they are. But if you're a glass maker and you're in the glass world, you know who this crew is behind me. They are renowned. Everyone knows who they are. I mean, we have Courtney Bram, who's a heavy hitter glass maker. All of them have had solo shows. All of them have traveled. You name it. I do want to talk a little bit about this cylinder really quickly because we're going to be making a large one. And we have a cylinder here. Now, this is for a different project, but it's going to meet the similar fate. Back in the olden day, back in the good old day, if you wanted a window in your home, you would have to go to a glass maker. Now, this glass maker would make a cylinder for you, how we see on that top screen. They would then cut the bottom off and then cut it through the side. And once we had this cylinder, we would heat it back up, and as it heated up, it would begin to unfold, leaving a sheet of glass. And that's how plate glass and sheet glass was made for a very long time. Nowadays, they don't do it this way anymore, but here at the museum, we will do that to create a very intricate or fancy pattern in our glass. And that is what we're going to be doing here today. So we're going to be making a tile later on. That is our end goal, is to create a tile. But right now, we do need to create the giant cylinder that will be used. So you guys are coming in at a good time, because this is the big stuff. Again, this doesn't happen really quickly. It does take quite some time to set this vessel up. But when we're getting going, it's going to be so much fun. Do you guys have questions here? Yes. What's the difference between the furnace and the glory hole? Remember that the chamber behind me, the glory hole, contains 0 glass. No glass at all. It's just a reheating chamber that we use. Do you have a question? What elements do you need to make a glass? That's a fantastic question. Right on. So the glass that we melt here is produced by a manufacturer about 45 minutes north of Seattle, and it looks like a little ice cube. So this is what we purchase our glass looking like. So to create this glass, we know exactly what they use. They use a silica sand formulation. So they start off with, have you ever played Minecraft before, by the way? Has any of you guys played Minecraft before? Right? Do you remember what the recipe is to make windows? Sand, exactly. So that's what we're using. We're using a higher quality of sand, though. So it's silica sand. This stuff is mined from the ground. It's not your average beach sand. They then add soda ash and lime, which will allow that glass to melt at a lower temperature and also stabilize it. Now, we do know that they add those materials, but we don't know exactly the formula. And that's what makes this glass so special, is that no one knows their exact formulation besides the owners of the company. So it's top secret. This stuff is top secret here. Do you have a question? How small of a bottle can we make in big? Glass making has no limits. If you can dream of it, we can make it. We can do tabletop glass making. This bottle could be about the size of your thumb. We can make a bottle the size of my body also, which we do every now and then here at the museum. So glass has no limits. For my audience that's here, And for especially my school group, I do want to let you guys know that later on you guys will be participating in our Kids Design Glass program. So I'm guessing everyone here is 12 and under, right? Are we all 12 and under? Shoots, right? Just a little bit under. But any child 12 and under at the museum is eligible to participate in this program. It's our Kids Design Glass. We're going to make sure that your instructors leave the museum with the official entry form, but you guys will get to draw whatever you want, whatever you want. I mean, think outside the box, and I recommend also the description. The description goes a long way. If you can make us laugh or giggle, thumbs up. That's really good. So you draw whatever you want. It's a contest. If you win, we will make it completely out of glass. We will make 2 of them, one for our collection and one for you to take home. This is one of our previous winners, our hypnotized broccoli. Just want to see how we made this piece real quickly, right? All right, on top screen, let's get hypnotized broccoli. It's just going to be a really quick video to show you how this piece is made. But this is also to get your kind of the juices flowing. Again, you guys will go back later and draw whatever you want. Again, I highly recommend the description. You make it funny. You make us giggle and laugh. You have a question? Did you want to leave this here, or is this what you want to enter? You want to enter it? All right, sweetie. So this is the thing. I like this drawing a lot. All right. Now I can take that drawing and put it right there. That is hypnotized broccoli right there. The team completely creating out of glass. Again, if you win, we will call you up. First of all, call your parents and your guardians. Let them know that you won, and we'll arrange a date where you can come down here to the museum and watch as your piece completely gets made out of glass. And before this piece is put away, before any Kids Design Glass is put away, the artist always needs to give that thumbs up. And again, all of you are eligible for this program, right? So I expect to see a lot of submissions later on this year. Now, do we have any other questions? Do you guys have questions here? I love questions, all right? No pressure. No pressure at all. Hello, welcome to the museum. All right, well, we're going to jump right back into the action. So I'm going to go down there and explain what's going on here with this vessel. But do you have a question? When is the contest? You can submit as many drawings as you like throughout the year. You can submit one every single year, every single month if you would like. We have a different winner every single month, though. The action begins down on the left-hand side. Now, we are working with color, and I had talked a little bit about that. We need a lot of communication for this piece because this is going to be a large one. And this is going to be a really big piece, by the way. So we're already working with quite a lot of glass, and the team has already dropped the solid color on top of the bubble. If you're wondering how we apply the solid color, well, we do this process where we bring over hot color, place it right on top of the bubble, and then spread it evenly around that bubble to create a similar density. Well, the process began down on this left-hand side, but applying the solid color. Now, Cody's been pushing that color layer nice and evenly. The reason he spent so much time is spreading that color is to ensure that we will have an even density of color all the way around our vessel. Ensure that there's not different densities or different hues of that color throughout our piece. Now, Cordy went back to the furnace and took an additional layer. And remember, our furnace holds approximately 1,000 pounds of glass. Later on, I'll dive right back deep into that furnace. But with this time around, I do want to talk about the steps and the procedures we take after the gather. We use a wooden block, and here at the museum, we love burning fruit wood specifically. Now, this fruit wood does have more of a moisture content, which allows it to be used for a longer period of time, and it just lasts longer than any type of wood. But an added bonus to all that is that when we do burn it, it smells like a barbecue, which is always a pleasant smell here. If we're going to make something large, something big here in the hot shop, how we are going to be doing today, we're just going to be taking multiple dips. So I believe Corny will be letting that surface cool down here shortly, and then going back to the furnace for yet another layer. Typically, the way that a glassmaker describes a vessel or whatever they create is by the amounts of gathers, the amount of dips that we take. The reason we let that core cool down, it actually does a handful of different things. A, it can give us the ability to gather more glass. Cold glass or hot glass would adhere more when we have a colder core. The second part, B, is that we can maintain more control. That cold core is going to suck the heat away from the glass on the surface. Just be easier to turn the rod as we're walking around and continuing to manipulate it. Is it possible to reuse glass? If it's clear glass, we will recycle it, but any glass that ends up on the ground here, we don't recycle. Just because it does become contaminated with any dirt or debris. But another thing is if it's colored glass and it goes back to our furnace, it can disperse and contaminate the tank. So what we're doing right now is called a strip gather, is when we hold the glass straight up and down to let go of excess glass, but also to be left with a symmetrical shape. Yep, the extra glass just fell right off, falling into a little bit of water that we do have inside that bucket. So what we saw Courtney do here was just thin out the glass further, so getting rid of excess glass again. Now, to make this large cylinder, we're going to first be creating a cup. That is our first step, is to create a large cup. I have a smaller cup, but our cup is going to be way larger than the one I'm going to show around. Once we have that, we are then going to stuff this cup with a different color on the very inside. And this is how we're going to get two different colors in one piece, is with a cup. Do you have a question? Yes. Can you buy small bottles in the store? Yes, we have a lot of different things in our store available. Oh, wow. And look at our beautiful orange cup we have down here. Now, we're still expanding that bubble. We're blowing through the blowpipe. And we've already created a constriction, which will be a break-off point. At that same time, down in the center, we're going to go ahead and begin to gather the necessary amount of glass and to fill that cup up from bottom to top. Now, we still have quite some manipulating to do before we get to that state. As of right now, remember to sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Now that the summer is out and the sun's out, and we're beginning to heat up down here at the museum. Again, we do offer complimentary water when you enter on the right-hand side. We have some water. Again, everyone stay safe, stay hydrated. If you want to continue seeing the glassmaking without the heat, we have a lovely lounge area out in our grand hall, and we have our live stream set up out in the TVs we have out there also. So you can also watch the live glassmaking right in our grand hall, a little bit more comfortable. All right, team. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys join us some later time. Again, your kids design glass. I'm excited to see that. Our summer hours are heating up. We're going to be open 7 days a week. And don't forget to stay in contact with us here at the museum. We do all forms of different social media, everything from Facebook to Twitter, and including Instagram. And everything you see on the top screen, we live stream through our YouTube channel, but also on our very own website. So you can always stay in touch here at the museum and check out what we're working on. For our cup, we will now be bringing over a punty. Now we have Sarah down here, and she's shaping this massive glass. When we're bringing over a punty, it is only temporary, so it does need to break later on in the process. And so Sarah is shaping it with that nice shape, but also thinking that in mind, the way that the glass would adhere to the bottom of our cup. We bring over the punty, bring it right on center, create a constriction. With a little bit of water, we'll break it free and begin to work on the opposite end and then open up the walls essentially to our cup. Oh, wow. Well, look at that. We have our finished cup complete. Gabe on that left-hand side, he's beginning to gather the necessary amount of glass to fill our cup. And then we have Sarah down in the center. Sarah's beginning to shape and build heat to this white glass. We're going to be adding a decorative wrap on our cold core, on that core that Gabe is walking around with the black hat, Mr. Gabe Feenan. We're going to be adding a decorative line on that core here very shortly. But well, for our audience that are with us, do we have any questions from the audience? Any questions? Again, we are heating up. We are getting ready to stuff our cup because we are going to be moving on to a large piece. We're going to be making a large cylinder, very similar to the one that we see here, but without that pattern we see on the inside. But it will meet the same fate of having the bottom cut off. We're going to cut the side, heat it back up, and as it heats up, this sheet of glass or this cylinder will eventually be a sheet of glass is what we're going for here. We're going to be making a tile out of this glass. Earlier in the day, we were asked how we create the lines you see in our glass, especially on the blue one that we see down on this table. If you're wondering how we created that black line going all across it, we're going to do that action right now. We're going to be adding a white line, however, and that's going on down on this right-hand side of the hot shop floor. We're going to be bringing over that white glass. You want this? I can throw it away. All right, so we're going to bring over that white glass. We're going to go ahead and attach it. And this is how we're going to create the lines in our glass here today. I believe we are going to repeat that process one more time. So we're going to, with this bubble, we also let it fall off center. By letting it fall on center, the lines won't be so horizontal, they'll be a little diagonal. So this time we're going to let it fall on the opposite end, give us more of that kind of, so the lines should theoretically, they're going to cross each other at a diagonal. So the garage is a temporary place where we can store the glass and keep it warm. Any color that we're working with here today, we'll just place it right here around that 1,900-degree area. It's going to heat up nice and warm up there. Also, this cup that we have out here right now, it looks like we're no longer babysitting. So we can place that cup right in the 1,000-degree area. It's going to stay warm enough so it doesn't break, but not too warm where it begins that we have to control it and constantly turning the rod. So here's where we're just going to let the glass sit until we are ready to bring it out and use it. And isn't that just incredible how we add glass just like that on the fly? We now go back to the wooden block to ensure that our bubble will be back on center and will blow out evenly. That wooden block will distribute both the heat and the mass of glass around the bubble. We always get asked, one question is, can we make glass? Or can you make a glass in your own home? It is possible in a beach setting. So if you're in a beach and you're like, well, let's melt some glass. One way you can do that is by making a really big bonfire, like really, really big bonfire. And there's two main secrets you need to know. The first secret is by making an air channel, ensuring, because what's going to get the flame hot at that necessary heat is air. So by creating an air channel, you can ensure you have the necessary oxygen to increase the temperature of the flame. And then the secondary thing is you can always add a little bit of seaweed on the very bottom of that bonfire. Theoretically, it should produce a flux which will lower the melting temperature of the sand, theoretically. Earlier, we were asked about our garage and what it does. Again, it's a temporary place where we set the glass to keep it nice and warm. But here's an added detail we do. What we're doing right now is we're getting ready to bring the cup that we placed in there a few minutes ago. We're actually elevating it. So the rod is in this general area, and this is where the flame is actually at. Since this area is 1,000 degrees and hot air likes to rise, technically this will be the hottest part of the garage, is this little corner up here. So we're placing our cup in that general area. Just give it another extra preheat before it exits and meets the flame inside the glory hole. We're now doing a very important move, which we call a price check, bringing the glass over with our cup to see how much more material we need to fill it up. Now, this is very important because there's no exact way of figuring out how much glass you need. It is by experience, and this just takes years and years of understanding how much glass you can gather and how much volume it can fit inside of that cup. Well, I hope we're all ready for this. We're going to go ahead and gather the necessary amount of glass. We were doing a little adjusting on the cup. And here we go. Gabe is now entering the furnace, holding 1,000 pounds of glass, about the same temperature as molten lava. And this is the move that we really need to take, is the stripping of the glass, getting rid of excess glass. We want to focus our attention on the ring we have here. We're going to ensure we get a really good view of it. But if you want to show your friends, your family, something unique you saw, you want to concentrate your attention on the ring we have in the front of the hot shop, because we are now going to begin the stuffing process. Well, this is now the move. A tap, a break, the set on the ground. We're going to come right on over. We're going to fill that cup. Again, it just takes experience knowing how much mass of glass can fit. And look at that beauty. Our visiting artist here today is Leo Berk. He's working down center. His first time working with glass here, so we're going to kind of give him a little experience of what that feels like to work with glass. Now, Leo is coming to us from Seattle. If you want to see some of his work, well, you can go to the Seattle District, University of Seattle, in their train station. He actually does some public art that's out there. And then also here locally, we can go to TAM, Tacoma Art Museum, that has one of his permanent shows now on our top screen. And show you a little bit about what Leo makes and his artwork and what led him here to the Museum of Glass. For my school group that's joining us, please sit down. Please feel free to ask me as many questions. I'll come on over. We can talk a little bit about the fun going on. Now, this is Leo's, again, first time working with hot molten glass here in the museum. Now, when an artist comes to the museum, it doesn't matter their background. I mean, you can be an engineer, architect, designer. To us, your background doesn't matter. It's about the ideas you present and that we will pursue here at the museum. And this is how we work here. We have a professional crew, one of the best hot shop crews in the world. They're incredibly talented. All we need is the artists to come here with the ideas they wish to expand on. All right. Well, hello, team. Hello. Welcome to the museum. How was... You guys are going to the aquarium next or tomorrow, right? The zoo. You guys are going to the zoo tomorrow, then, right? All right. You guys excited for that? You guys have a really awesome summer coming up. You guys have a bunch of plans. You guys have a field trip every day. Is that correct? Man, that is awesome. That's amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today, staying with us. Can I give a shout out to who? Kyle. Hi, Kyle. Where's Kyle at? I'm David. Nice to meet you. Anyways, so welcome to the museum. Again, my name is David. If you have questions, I'm here for you, okay? I'm here for all of you. If you guys want to ask me questions, raise your hand, shout my name. You're more than happy to. It might be a question of, like, do you play Fortnite or something like that? You guys play Fortnite? Well, you guys can always ask me too, all right? Sounds good? You guys are oh, man, we have a John Wick in here. All right. All right, team. Well, again, for my school group. So my school group, welcome to the Museum of Glass. We're going to be making a large cylinder, all right? A really large cylinder that we're going to be making into a tile later on. So we're going to be making sheet glass here today, but that's going to be happening way later in the process. What we're focusing here on is creating a large cylinder with our hot shop crew. So this piece is going to be big. It's going to be large. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be, such a pleasure to watch this crew tackle this vessel on, all right? So down here, if you guys are sitting here, you guys have a great view. I do want to let you know that down here we have a cylinder that we're going to be opening later on. So this will meet the same fate as our cylinder we're making right now. By the way, for my school group, for our team that's in here, I love questions, all right? It's like my favorite part of my job, so I expect a lot of questions from my school group that's here with us here, especially since you guys have field trips. I mean, you guys are going to have a lot of field trips, which is a lot of fun. How many years have I had this job? I've had this for a little bit over a year and a half now, and I'm very thankful. I've been working with glass since about 13 years old. So I've been working with glass for about 9 years, which I'm really happy about. But that's nothing compared to the crew behind me. I'm going to quickly kind of break them down a little bit. I'm going to come back to your questions, but I do want to introduce the crew that we have here at the museum. First, we'll begin with the gaffer, which is the person in charge, and that is Down in the center, that is Mr. Gabe Feenan down in the black hat. Now, he's been working. You guys want to guess how long he's been working with glass? You guys want to guess? 22 years? Oh, my God. First try. That's perfect. You got it correct. Gabe's been working with glass for 22 years. I can't believe that you got it right on the first try. Like, fantastic. So we then have Courtney Bram down here. He's wearing leather gloves, baseball gloves to give him the extra grip. Does anybody want to guess how long he's been working with glass? I'll give you a hint. He's been working with glass longer than I've been alive, all right? All right, so I saw your hand first go up first. How many years has Courtney been working with glass? I am 21. You want to guess? No, not 30 years, just a little less. You want to guess? 28, a little less than that. Do you want to guess? You got it actually right. Courtney Bram has been working with glass for over 25 years. Can you guys believe that? Such a long time. We then have Sarah down here. Sarah's been working with glass for over 18 years. This crew, if you're in the glass world, you know who they are. I mean, they are renowned. They're incredibly talented, and we're so lucky to have this amazing crew, part of the full-time employees here at the museum. All right, you guys have questions? Omen. Can I go say hi to Omen? I can say hi to Omen from down here. What's up, man? Kyle. Oh, you guys have twins? All right. How awesome. Oh, you guys are going to confuse me here today. Do you have a question? Do I have to memorize the things I speak? I know how to work with glass. I've been working with glass for quite some time now, and I love talking about glass. I mean, I can nerd out about glass all day. We change it up here. It really depends on the crowd, how I'm feeling the crowd. But I like the energy you guys are giving off. I love the questions, too. I love questions. It's like my favorite part of my job. We're going to answer a question in the very back. If I heard that question right, most of the action will be moving to the right-hand side or the center of the hot shop. Oh, does Mr. Dale Chihuly ever come to the Museum of Glass? We are very fortunate to have Dale Chihuly part of the board at the very early stages of this museum, but no, Dale Chihuly does not come to the Museum of Glass. He has his own studio in Seattle called Dale Chihuly's Boathouse. That's where all his artwork is created also. It is I know it's right on the lake of, I know this, UW's district, where UW Seattle is located. Yes, so there is a kind of a museum for him, but he has his own private studio. All right, questions for my school group, all right? Sweet, we're looking for another twin. We can just start down here. You have a question? Does this place have venting? That is an amazing question. What's your name? Andrew, you have an amazing question. If you want to look up, if everyone here wants to look up, I highly recommend it. This museum is functional. This is our venting system. It's a natural chimney. Hot air can rise. You notice that fan up there? That just sucks the heat away from us, allowing us to stay cool all year round. And that's why I'm wearing a sweater right now, because I know it's hot, but this museum is incredibly cool. And we can wear a sweater here all year round due to this shape and design we have. You have a question? Yes. Ever made glass piece? So I've been working with glass for about 9 years now. I'm just not nearly as good as the team you saw behind me. We mentioned that some of them have been working for 25 years, 18 years, 20 years. Ooh, one day. But they're incredibly talented. If you could ever dream of anything, this team can make it. They can make whatever your heart desires. You have a question? Has anything ever caught on fire? The wooden paddles catch on fire when we use them too long. Every now and then. You might see that here today. Do you have another question? How much will it cost to have a customized piece? I would say if you have to ask, I don't think it's possible. I don't think. Do you have a question? How long did I have this job? I've had this job for a little bit, a year and a half. Do you have another question? How hot is it in the furnaces here? I'm actually going to jump right into that answer. So we have glory holes where we reheat the glass. For our team here, I do want to kind of open this door a little bit so we can see some of that heat. This is about 2,300 degrees, all right? If you're wondering how hot that is, that's about the same temperature as molten lava. Unfortunately, I can only open these doors here, but we can sure feel some of that heat. Do you guys feel that? Oh, man, you guys feel that, right? That's the glory hole. That's about 2,300 degrees. You're lucky. I'm only opening 2 doors here because if I open the other side, ooh, it would get quite hot inside of here. All right, this is going to be the last 2 questions I take, and then I'm going to move on to the center. Do I believe in unicorns? Ooh, that's a tough question. I don't know. Probably not. Do you have a question? Ooh, what is glass made of and what is in that squirt bottle? I'll answer that one really quickly. It's just a little bit of water. So for my school group here, do any of you guys play Minecraft? Minecraft players? All right, I saw your hand go first. Do you remember what the recipe is to making glass cubes? Glass. Do you remember what you place in the furnace? You put sand, exactly. So the glass that we melt here, the basic ingredient is sand. That normal beach sand you see when you go to the beach, that's what our stuff is made out of. Ours is a little bit more higher quality. And we actually mine that sand. But I'm going to quickly jump back into the action. I'm going to come back and answer your questions, all right? But I really want to hit on what the team is making right now is we're making this large cylinder. We've been blowing air through that blowpipe, expanding the bubble and making it larger and larger. Isn't that pretty awesome, right? Glass blowing's pretty awesome. We got to play with fire. Now, we do want to ensure we have even walls all the way around. We had a question do we ever catch things on fire? Well, we see this paddle on fire. I told you, we're going to be doing that all day today here at the museum because we always stay active here. All right, do you guys have questions? Glass is not flammable, no. You have a question? How many of these pieces do we make a weekend or a day? It really depends on what we're making here today. A small things, this team is quite fast. We can produce them maybe about 1 every 40 minutes. We're going to be making a large cylinder. You have a question? Oh, what is Gabe wearing down here? Gabe is wearing a sleeve. Now, this is going to give him another added protective barrier so his hand's not heating up too badly. Remember, that glass is radiating quite a lot of heat. We had a question from the top. Yes. All right, you're going to have to speak quite loud because that torch is on. It's kind of hard to hear, too. How do we get the different colors in glass? Fantastic question. The way we get color is by adding different metals of the periodic table of elements. Different metals will produce a different color. So it's specifically metals we're adding. We can use uranium in glass, which creates a glow in the dark. To make a green glass, we can add chromium or iron. Do you have a question on the very top? I didn't hear that very last part. Will we be changing what again? Oh, well, the next piece. Oh, yeah, we always make something unique. So this is one of one piece. We'll go on and move on to a different vessel after this. Do you have a question? Is there a difference between lava and molten lava? Your question is? I actually think magma is described as if it's inside of the crust, it's lava once it exits the crust. I think that's how that's. Yes. How do we breathe with all this smoke? Well, we have this excellent funneling system. On the top screen, on the top of the museum, remember we have a fan that just sucks the heat away from us, allowing us to stay nice and cool all year around. Notice that the crew is going for an exact diameter. So we're going back with calipers to measure and ensure that we have that adequate size. All right, team, so I'm going to start from right here, and then I'm going to work my way up. How do we make the glass bigger and bigger? We take several dips inside the furnace. So this piece I would describe as a glass maker as like a 5-gather vase or a 5-gather cylinder, which means we enter the furnace 5 times. You have a question? How do we make a glass into different shapes? So we can begin to shape that massive glass differently. We can use a wet padded newspaper. We have all these tools down here. We can use molds. Heck, if we really wanted to, we could dig a hole in the ground and use that as a shaping tool. Do you have a question? What is this going to be? Where we are making a tile here today. So to make a tile, to make a sheet of glass, we first need to make a cylinder. Once this cylinder is complete and it's cold, we're going to cut the bottom off of it, cut it right down the side of it, reheat it. As it heats up, it begins to unfold, and we will be left with a sheet of glass. This is how windows were made for a very long time in history. Nowadays, we had floated glass, which is made differently, but if we want to make something very decorative into a sheet of glass, this is how we're going to be making it. This piece will be used later in an installation that our visiting artist is working on here today. If you want to see some of his artwork, you can go to Tacoma Art Museum, where his pieces are in the permanent collection. And then he also makes public art that is in the train station at the UW district. Yes, this will be used later. It won't be a standalone piece by itself, of course. So there will be other decorative pieces added to it. But this is just the basics of it. Yes, for a long time, this is how they would do that too. So they would make a sheet. If you notice those pieces, that color intensity is very uneven also. This is one way to do it. We're just going to make the cylinder today. That sheet glass will happen way later in the process once the glass is cooled down and we take it to our cold working studio. So right now, all we will see is just the cylinder being built. Actually, there is. Hold on, let me think about that. I don't think there's actually a sheet of glass out in our display, but there is one installation that we're actually working on right now that will be all composed of sheet glass that we're making here at the museum. It will cool down for 24 hours before we can even grab the glass or begin to do anything with it. Yes. How big will this sheet of glass be? I'm sure if we do a little math, we can figure that out. But we will have to measure the diameter of this vessel, or the radius, I should say. You have a question? Can we make a plane out of glass? We've made a airplane here before. I'm going to show you a video, but not right now. After this piece is done, I'm going to show you an airplane video because we've made an airplane here at the Museum of Glass. Did anyone fly in it? No, but it had a functional propeller. Do you have a question? Valor, the dark red color. Kind of cherry. I'm sure we can figure that out. I'm sure we can make it all right. You have a question? Can we make a car or truck out of glass? If you can dream of it, we can make it. This leads me to our Kids Design Glass program. All of you are eligible to be part of this program. It's a contest that essentially we will hold. We'll make whatever you draw. If you win, we invite you to come to the museum. We will make 2 drawings, one for you to take home and one for our collection. Later on, I'll be going into the Kids Design Glass, but I do want to focus on what we're working on right now. But later on, I'll show you some of the videos we have here. You have a question? Does it take a large lung capacity to blow air? It doesn't. We're actually blowing about the same air pressure you use to blow out a candle. It's not a lot of air, about 1 or 2 psi. You have a question first. Can we make glass that's edible? We can make glass that's so thin that we can actually eat it, and it's just so thin that it won't really do any harm. It's kind of dangerous, though. You have a question? What color is this actual glass? It will be an orange color when it's complete. So these are all different colors that are visiting artist Leo Berk has purchased from the glass company. Okay, these are all different colors. You have a question? This piece, its true color will come back in about 24 hours once it's cooled down, actually. Do you have a question up there? Have we ever made a Prince Rupert's drop? Oh, yes, we make those bombs all the time. Yes, we do make those here at the museum. They're pretty fun to play with. A Prince Rupert's drop it's a very bit of glass that we drop into cold water. And there's so much stress in that glass that by ripping the tail off it, they explode. So they're like bombs made out of glass. We use those here to blow up glass that we don't want anymore. How do we make sand into glass? By getting it really hot. So by going up to about 2,500 degrees, we create the glass that NASA uses. Their glass melts at 5,000 degrees, which is why it's able to exit and re-enter the atmosphere. Do you have questions? What is Sarah doing down on that left-hand side? So Sarah's a professional glassmaker. She's been working with glass for well over 19 years. And she's going to begin to create what we call the punty. The punty is the transfer rod. It's going to be the new rod that we can use, the new handle, and we can begin to work on the opposite end, on the neck, or on the where the construction is located right now. Would the fire heat up the glass? Not really, even that would, just because that glass is way hotter than the wood is. So remember the law of conservation of energy and mass. Mass likes to hold heat, and the heat will be radiated off. So I know we have a question down there. We're going to hold off on questions here for a few minutes. After the transfer and we do a little adjusting, we'll go back and answer a little bit of questions. All right, team? We are now going to get ready to break off our previous handle after a little bit of adjusting. And this is the new handle, so we're going to break our previous rod free. To do so, all we will use is a few drops of water. Water is extremely bad to hot glass, so we will use it to our advantage to create a break-off spot. All right, well, I think we're ready for this break-off now. So we're going to come over with a few drops of water. Here we go with one drop. That's one droplet. This is the second droplet. You guys ready for this? Isn't that incredible? All we do is a slight tap. It is broken free, and we can now begin to work on the top area. Oh man, and look at that. Now we got rid of all the thick glass that's found on the very tip by pulling that glass out and trimming it free. Now we can begin to see that line work on the very inside. We will now open the walls up to ensure we have straight, even walls. We were using a tool called the Sofietto. Now, the Sofietto is a little puffer that we use to inflate the glass itself. Since we no longer have a blowpipe, we use this to expand the bubble. The reason we are doing that is just to minimize the tool marks that may be left over. So the usual tool that we use called the jacks has steel blades. We run them on some beeswax to prevent some stickiness and prevent scratching, but even with that, we still produce some what we call maker's mark. This time around, Gabe is going to be using a similar tool, but with wooden blades. So that should leave even less amount of markings. As we go back, notice we're going to clean up the walls, ensure that everything's nice and straight. And look at that. We have the necessary dimensions of our vessel. We're going to go ahead and clean it up. Continue to clean it up because, again, this museum, it's the highest level of professional glass making. Say no more. Well, this piece is just about done. The next step is to cool it down in the annealer. The annealer is your oven on the left-hand side with the green number 1. It is currently sitting at 920 degrees, and it'll be the home of this cylinder and everything we produce here today. Unfortunately, whatever glass we make, and if we leave it out here, it'll get too cold too fast. It can break, crack, or even explode. So to prevent it from breaking, we will have to slowly cool it down for a controlled period of time. Here we go with a little bit of water on the end of the crevice we made earlier called the punty. We'll create another weak spot in the glass. So here we go with 1 drop. We go with the second droplets. A tap. The piece is broken free and on its way to the annealing oven, just like that. What's really going on with the glass is that the outside will cool down faster than the inside. That temperature difference will stress the glass out, cause it to break, crack, and even explode. Now, let's give our team a round of applause. They did such an amazing job here today. Not to forget, we have a visiting artist, Berk, down here, and he's a mastermind behind all this. He's putting the ideas together. So let's give him a round of applause. He's going to be here until Sunday, which will be his last day here at the Museum of Glass. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us here today on this morning live glass making demonstration. So we have a lunch in about 15 minutes, but we are going to continue, all right? We're going to continue we're going to be making one of these small vessels. So kind of essentially a tumbler is what we're going to be making. But same with that decorative white stripe that we've been adding to all of our pieces here today. When will that vessel come out? It will come out around this time tomorrow. Yeah. Again, if you want to see some of our featured artist work, Leo Berk, you can see some of his work in our local area. That's included Tacoma Art Museum and also at the train station, University of Washington, Seattle. Thank you so much for joining us again. If you're going to stick with us, you're totally fine. You can sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We are going to continue to manipulate hot molten glass on this hot shop floor with our wonderful visiting artist, Leo Berk. These pieces, yes, will be signed by Leo Berk, our visiting artist. We had a question of how much did that cylinder weigh? I would say it weighed around under 25 pounds, around 23, 24. Now, it may not seem like a lot. It may be like, oh, I lift that at the gym, but remember, it's all at the end of the rod, which can feel like you're going fishing with two bowling balls on the end of that fishing rod is what it feels like when you're turning that rod, especially fatigue. That can really build up. So these ladders that we have here are cooling racks. To add the lines that we're doing here, we're doing what we call a wrap, but later on we're going to be moving on to creating lines using these black strands of glass. So we're going to chop them up to smaller sections. When you're looking throughout our gallery, if you see lines in our piece, they might be twisty, they might be curly or turned, but this is what they're made out of. We call this cane. It's simple cane. We can then actually make this even more complicated if we would like to by re-rolling it and re-stretching it. No, thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone's having a wonderful morning, too. By the way, as the Museum of Glass heats up, I know we're getting to that time of season when we get quite hot. Remember that the museum offers free water, complimentary water, when you enter the hot shop. Everyone, please stay hydrated. Please stay safe. If you feel like it's getting a little too hot in here for you, it's totally fine. We have you covered. We have a lounge area, and we have our live stream set up out there. You're more than welcome to watch the live glass making out in that area, too. That's a good question. How do we decide when the glass is cold? It no longer manipulates. It no longer moves. One of the most important rules of glass making is turning the rod. To us down here, it's second nature. When you're first starting off, that can be really complicated. It's like the hardest learning curve to learn is that turning that rod. You just have to do it naturally. If you stop turning, the glass begins to fall to one end, and it will eventually end up on the ground. That's one good way we can figure out how hot the glass is. If it's moving, we're gonna be turning the rod a lot. If it's cold, we're not gonna be turning that rod too much. How will he sign it? Well, there's a few different ways. We will use a Dremel tool. It's a diamond tip tool with a very fine point. We can sign our name on the glass. So we're just scratching the very top layer of it. Well, I hope everyone's having a wonderful afternoon. After all, you are here at the museum. We are just going to be making this small tumbler. Notice that we've distorted it also. It's just not a plain old cup. We've added this decorative line stripe, and then we've also distorted the actual vessel. And this completes the third piece of the day and the first tumbler here today. The next step we will take with our glass is to slowly cool it down. Unfortunately, if we leave it out here, it'll get too cold too fast. It can break, crack, or even explode. Now, to prevent it from breaking, we will have to slowly cool it down. Now, on your left-hand side of the hot shop floor, we have an annealer. It is a black oven with the green number 1. It is currently sitting at 920 degrees, and it'll be the home of our cup, of our tumbler, for the next 24 hours to cool down. A little tap, a little bit of hot torch action on the very bottom portion, and this cup is complete. And just like that, we wrap up our morning live glass making demonstration with that cup. You can see that cylinder we made earlier today, just about half an hour ago. Hello. Now, again, we want to thank you for joining us. We are going to be taking our lunch break now. If you have any questions, right now is a really good time before we break off for our lunch break. Again, we will be back in about 1 hour. How much are these? Ooh, typically I like to say if you have to ask, it's probably not a good sign. Well, once again, we want to thank everyone for joining us. Our team and our crew will be taking a lunch, but we will be back in about 1 hour, so a little bit over an hour. We'll be back here, continuing the glass making fun. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to be back in about 1 hour, all right? Remember, your pass is good for the entirety of the day, so you can leave, come back, grab a coffee, grab a lunch.